Have you ever had that gut feeling? I mean, you were just certain a stock was about to drop, but you were too nervous to actually bet against it? Well, today we're digging into a strategy that's built for exactly that moment, the long put. Let's find out if it really is a safer bet.
I mean, it's the classic problem, right? You're looking at a stock, you're convinced it's way overvalued, and it's just due for a reality check. But shorting it? Oof, that can come with the terrifying risk of unlimited losses if you're wrong. So, is there another way to play this?
You bet there is, and the answer is the long put. The easiest way to think about it is like buying insurance on a stock's price. You get the right to sell at a guaranteed price, which means right from the get-go you know exactly what your maximum loss is. No surprises.
Okay, but theory is one thing. To really get a feel for how this works, we need to see it in action. So let's break down the anatomy of a real trade.
So let's set the stage. We're watching a company, let's call it Stock XYZ, and it's sitting at a nice round $100 a share. It's been on a heck of a run, but you've got a feeling that what goes up might be about to come down.
So you decide to act on that hunch. You go out and buy what's called an at-the-money put option. This is basically a contract that gives you the right to sell shares of XYZ at today's price, $100, no matter how far the stock actually falls.
Now, to get this right, you have to pay a price. That's called the premium. Let's say in this case, it costs you $500. And listen, this is the most important number on the screen. That $500 is the absolute most you can possibly lose on this trade. Your risk is totally, completely capped.
All right, so your bet is officially placed. Now let's jump into the future and see how this plays out. What happens if you're right? And what's the damage if you are spectacularly wrong? So let's play this out two ways. First, the dream scenario. Your bearish instinct was spot on, and the stock takes a nosedive. In the second scenario, well, not so much. The stock just keeps on climbing. How does our $500 bet hold up?
Let's start with the win. The stock plummets down to $80. Your option gives you the right to sell at $100, so it's now worth at least that $20 difference per share. Since a standard contract controls 100 shares, that's a value of $2,000. You subtract your initial $500 costs, and boom, you've just made a $1,500 profit. That is a 300% return on your investment. Not bad.
But what if you were dead wrong and the stock rockets up to 150? Well, your right to sell at 100 is now completely useless, so the option just expires worthless. You lose the $500 you paid. But here's the beautiful part. Whether the stock went to 101 or 1,000, your loss is exactly the same. It is capped at that $500 premium.
And that right there, that imbalance, is what makes this strategy so attractive to so many people. The upside is huge, while the downside is strictly defined and limited. It creates what traders call an asymmetric risk profile, where the potential rewards can far outweigh the known risks. So you're probably thinking, okay, limited risk, huge reward, this sounds incredible. Why doesn't everybody do this all the time? Well, because there's a catch. Or in this case, there are actually two of them.
Seriously, it's a totally fair question. If the setup seems this good, where your losses are capped but your profit potential is massive, what's the hidden trick? What are the costs we're not seeing yet?
Well, it turns out that just being right about the stock's direction, that's not enough. The moment you buy an option, you've actually entered a fight against two invisible, relentless forces that are trying to drain the value of your position every single second. Your first opponent is time itself. In the options world, we call this time decay, or theta. And what it means is that every single day that ticks by, a little bit of value just bleeds out of your option, simply because there's less time left on the clock for your prediction to come true.
In this image here is absolutely crucial to understand. This decay isn't a slow, steady drip. No, it's much more like a melting ice cube. At first, the melting is slow, almost unnoticeable. But as you get closer to that expiration date, especially in the last 30 days, the melting speeds up dramatically. This means you don't just have to be right, you have to be right soon.
Your second opponent is a tricky little thing called implied volatility, or IV. You can think of IV as the hype premium. It's the cost of uncertainty that gets baked into an option's price right before a big market-moving event like an earnings report. But after the news drops, all that uncertainty vanishes, and the option's value can get absolutely crushed.
And this is a trap that catches so many people off guard. You can be 100% correct about which way the stock is going to move, but if you buy your option when IV is super high,
Right before that big news, the IV crush that happens afterward can wipe out your gains and even turn a winning trade into a loser. It's brutal.
So let's put all the pieces together. What's the bottom line here? Let's distill this down into the core power and the real perils of using a long put. So on one hand, you have this incredible power. You've got limited, defined risk and the potential for some serious leverage. It's a really efficient way to make a bearish bet. But on the other hand, you're up against these constant dangers. Time decay, which is turning your option into that melting ice cube, and volatility risk, which can crush its value in the blink of an eye.
And this right here is the key takeaway. A long put is not a simple one-dimensional bet that a stock's price will fall. It's so much more complicated than that. It's a strategic trade with multiple moving parts you have to get right.
You see, to actually win with a long put, you have to be right on 3 different dimensions. You need the right direction, of course. You need the right timing, so you win before that clock runs out. And you need the right volatility, meaning the stock has to move enough to not only cover what you paid for the option, but also survive any potential IV crush.
So that's the real question, isn't it? The long put is an incredibly powerful tool, but it's not a simple one. When you place that trade, you're not just betting on direction, you're signing up for a race against both the clock and the market's hype. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.